You've had Wendy's nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new saucy nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo or honey barbecue, garlic parm, or if you're a real heat seeker out there, you can try spicy ghost pepper, only on Wendy's signature spicy nugs. Listen, I'm going to dare you to do it. I dare you. That's 7 delicious ways to try the nugs that you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and then grab a few more napkins and prepare to nug like you've never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's at participating U.S. Wendy's.
What up, Cal fans? Welcome back to the Golden Bearcast. We are, of course, a proud partner of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I am one of your co-hosts, Andy. Alongside me is Rob, and you are here listening to the Golden Tweets. Tweet, tweet.
You've got mail.
Ooh, wow. No lead up or anything. Just came with the heat.
We're doing it every week now. So I gotta get our cadence, our timing right, our chemistry right.
Oh my goodness, I'm blown away. That was very good, very, very good. Okay, well, now that Rob has started us off on a high note, I'm feeling really good about the Oregon State game. Let's get into how Twitter is feeling about the North Carolina State game.
Yeah, all right. We'll start at the top. Sid sends us in. Just disappointed at this point, still showing up for the team because I don't think we should blame the players. In my opinion, this is on the coaches and they need to figure out how to turn it around. Time and patience is running out. See you this weekend.
Nice. We got to figure out.
Yeah. Have we still figured out if that was actually Sid that you ran into? Have we?
No.
We still haven't figured that out. Okay.
We should figure that out this weekend.
Yeah, we should probably figure that. All right. Next one, eat your broccoli. Can you talk about what it would take to replace J-Dub and the implications it would have on the players? We kind of talked about it on our previous half pod with Josh in terms of like financially what it would take. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen to that. I do a little bit of a financial breakdown in terms of what we would need from our end to make that happen. So yeah. That's the first thing that needs to happen. Finances need to be squared away in that regard before any of those moves can be made. But implications it would have on the players, it's weird with like the transfer portal because the moment a coach leaves, the team and players get 30 days to enter the portal. So if we were to fire Wilcox mid-season, that's like the worst case scenario because all these players can just start to leave and it would leave our roster decimated for the rest of the year. So that's why I don't think you're going to see a lot of teams fire their head coach mid-season unless absolutely dire, particularly at Power 5.
I mean, USC did it to get Lincoln Riley, and it works really well from a process standpoint there, I think.
But that was also pre-portal.
Pre-portal. Yeah, for sure. I think the implications, the way I look at it is if you're going to do that, you cannot take out the floor. It's too risky right now in the landscape of college athletics. So if you're going to make that type of move, that's why I think you go for a Tosh, you go for a Ron Rivera, someone that's defensive minded. So you basically retain, as long as you're retaining the defense in my mind and Nando, that's really where I would look at like the completely irreplaceables. And then it's all kind of for naught, to be honest, from a discussion standpoint, because of what Rob said earlier. On the session that we had, friend of a pod, but I do think that's the way I look at this. It's like, as much as I would love to get Lincoln Riley at Cal, it makes no sense to bring in somebody like Lincoln Riley because you truly are resetting everything. But it's just hard for me not to look at our schedule this year and then look at our schedule next year. There's no way Lincoln Riley is 3-4. There's just no chance. There's no chance. And so part of me does say, hey, maybe it's worth it to just blow it up and bring in somebody like that if you even had a chance of doing so. And again, I don't know if that's possible, but yeah, the schedule is so easy. It really is. it gets easier, which is ridiculous. It's been so easy this season. Anyways, next question. I don't want to get frustrated.
Yeah. Anthony Baran sends us a tweet. In case there's a coaching change, who are your top 5 coaches we go after? How do you feel about Tosh, and would you welcome him back? I don't have a top 5. I haven't started doing the research into this. I probably won't until after the season. Reason, and I'll give you my reason why, is it's because I think the first factor is the type of coach that we're going to need to bring in if Wilcox is fired is like, we can't take a big risk. It's got to, as Andy said, have a high floor, which means you're probably going after like a coordinator of a P5 program. I don't think you're going after like a sitting head coach at a G5 school. Like I just don't think you can take that gamble that he's going to make that next step up. You need the floor secured. And then with that, there's still half a season left to play. So coordinators that might look good right now might not look good in 6 weeks' time. So it's really hard to make that guess. And that's kind of why like I'm not really thinking about it. Tosh, I think, would be that type of hire, right? Like it's that Dan Lanning to Oregon type of hire, where it's a guy who's been a part of a winning program at multiple stops. This year has a chance to vie for a championship both in the conference and nationally. And if he does that, then you're bringing in that hype in with him. He's a great recruiter. He's a Cal grad, so he knows the landscape. He's a defensive guy. So like it checks a lot of the boxes. Now, would the donors go for it is a totally different question, because there are still a lot of donors that do not like how he left Cal the first time he was here. So there would have to be some bearing of hatchets. But I think in terms of just the football stuff, I think he does check a lot of the boxes if we were to make that move.
I legitimately can't imagine anyone holding on to that amount of anger.
You'd be surprised.
No, I know. I'm
crazy.
surprised right now.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
To me, it's so long ago. Get over it. It would be. I would have zero concerns about bringing Tosh back. I worked with Tosh. He is absolutely the definition of a player's coach. He bring a lot of credibility to our recruiting. Understands NIL before it was legal. And I think it would be a really smart move, but does he want to come back to Berkeley? It's also not possible from a financial standpoint. So it's all kind of made up. But yeah, I wanted Tosh back when we were looking for, candidates to come on the Wilcox staff. Mm-hmm. I wanted Tosh back when we were looking for a D coordinator for Sonny Dykes. So I've been on that train for a while. Just because we lost a couple of recruits back in, 15 years ago. I don't care. It's all good. I've moved on.
I think most of us have, but we're not the powers that be. Next one from Joe Kenyon. If you look at our O-line, it's mostly made up of transfers from FCS or G5 who essentially moved up because they were solid at their respective level. We have crutched on and paid for their ability to translate. It hasn't, don't know if O-line play really does. Well, for me, the flip side of that argument is TJ Sessions. Arguably been our best offensive lineman for the last 2 years. And we brought him from, was it Montana or Montana State? And he's turned into that. So, yeah. You're going to have hits. You're going to have misses. It just feels like we have a lot more misses right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to be easier to see on the defensive side of the ball with like Teddy Buchanan. I felt like Teddy has been so good against like NC State, San Diego State, Davis, maybe Auburn. But then there was like FSU, Miami, where all of a sudden I didn't notice him as much. So I do think there's absolutely this level gap that exists. And going from G5 or FCS to like mid-level opponent or NC State or mid-tier ACC, I think is totally fine. And then there's sort of this difference when you get up into the upper echelon from a talent level that seems to be harder, which makes total sense.
Yep.
So
I think the one thing to add to you is the experience standpoint too. Like Teddy is a 4th-year guy that we got as a grad transfer from Davis, versus a lot of the offensive linemen that we're bringing in are like, Wyckoff, who's a freshman, was a freshman All-American at Texas A&M, and then we bring him in. Victor Stoffel's a sophomore that we bring in. Barrett Miller's younger brother that we brought in from Michigan State is a sophomore from Michigan State. Like, we brought in offensive linemen that we thought had the talent and that we were going to develop over the next couple of years. Versus, bringing in like a guy like Will McDonald, who is a grad transfer from Coastal Carolina. I think he's hit the ground running despite his injuries earlier on in the year. So I think the expectation does need to change dependent on the reasons of why we brought them in for their profile.
Yep.
There are toys, and then there are freak-out-worthy toys. Toys that get big reactions like,
OMG, no way!
or,
Best present ever!
or,
It's what I've always wanted.
for those toys, you need Walmart. They've got exclusives from major brands like Disney, Barbie, and Adventure Force that you can't find anywhere else. Toys that make kids jump for joy.
Thank you.
And make you a hero for giving them. Shop hundreds of exclusive toys.
Yes!
Welcome to your Walmart.
Listen in. Starbucks. It's a great day for coffee.
All right. Next one. Cal Bears LFG says, mine are all rusty. One is the play calling as bad as the teams? Andy, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Why does RD fail on 3rd and 1,000,000?
I have no idea.
How many of these games do we win with Ott and the wide receivers healthy? All of them? 2 of them? 0?
I think definitely last week's. There's a couple plays where Javian Thomas had daylight and then it closed on him and it wouldn't have on Ott because of his just game-changing speed. I think Rob talked about it with the wide receivers. I would probably say 2 of... Like, I think I would take Pitt and NC State and turn those into W's. Miami is just going to be forever Miami. And FSU, I don't know. I don't know because at the end of the day, I think that's more. It's just like what Wilcox is frustrated with. Is just frustrated with an offense that can't seem to execute in the red zone. And like we've had that come up 3 out of the last 4 games. Miami is really the outlier. So I don't know.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think we lose to Miami regardless, but I think the other 3 games, I think we win.
Brutal.
Can the O-line be fixed?
I'm starting to get on board with the people that think that, hey, I just see too much. After seeing that one play where we have 3 O-line downfield and perfectly set up tunnel screen and one guy looks right and the 2 other guys miss the only defender that's left on the field. I'm like, man, maybe this is bigger than maybe it needs to be a change where like you have somebody that's just focused on it. It just seems like we're lacking in fundamentals. But I will say, like, from a protection standpoint, last week was not as bad. Like the sacks were more symptomatic of things that we were seeing in Nando than I think of actual protection. We had time. I don't know why Fernando in one of those plays was just only looking left. Didn't make any sense to me. He didn't even move off of his first read and was just like, I don't know what happened there. So the O-line seems to be a scapegoat right now, but the big question is like, what is going on with Blesh, and would we be better served from a benefit of focus on that position? And I do not know.
Last one is the clap snap trigger causing the penalties.
You can take this one.
I don't think so. I think it's just focus. Honestly, you've done it so much. It's just a matter of like knowing mentally, like we're going on the first clap, or we have a pause and look away. Like we don't, just making sure you know what the cadence is in the snap count.
Let me say, I will say the hold that got called against us that initially pulled us into deep field goal range at the end of the game. I saw this from, section double D row 34 with my own eyes, and I yelled out face mask. And it was clear as hell to me that it was a face mask.
And Wilcox ripped into that sideline ref too.
It was, and that should have been an offsetting penalty. and they didn't call it, and that was a huge missed call. And it's almost, I don't even know the sideline. I don't know how the back judge didn't see that. The back judge, to me, it's like that was clear. His hand was there, and brutal.
Yeah, most everyone saw it. Next one, Shavit says, based on your discussion the last couple of weeks and the Graves, Merriweather, Ott injuries, wouldn't it be smarter to prioritize O-line from an NIL perspective over skill positions?
I love it. Shavit's drinking my Kool-Aid. Well, I think from like running back, absolutely, you should be evaluating these things where you have the biggest amount of supply. And I don't know, like what it depends on what we say. Like, is having a supremely talented running back, although I will say, again, if we had Jaden Ott last game, because of the situations in which we were able to get our running backs in, we would win that game. There's just a couple of plays where like daylight existed, he scores, and that's the difference in the ball game. But overall, would you prefer to have a Fonse or EC Sofele, or dare I say even like a Shane Vereen, or do you aim for the Javid Best and the Jaden Ott? I can see both sides of it. Personally, I think I'd rather invest in an O-line because that is what Wilcox has been trying to do for 8 years. I don't know if, I feel like a lunatic for even suggesting this, but I would pour as much resources into getting that to where it needs to be. And then you can have, this stable of talent. Like Javian Jet Thomas could end up being 85% of what Jaden Ott is for us. Right?
Yeah.
And we didn't have to pay him, but the thing is, like, eventually you have to pay something, but it becomes like the NFL where like all these running backs are coming together and saying, no, we're going to get paid. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll take the 1 year deal. Right. And it has to kind of be that, like the rest of the league has to see it the same way. And if they don't, then you're sort of looking at a churn and burn strategy where you're saying, cool, the O-line is going to be a staple. So all of us are going to know the names of the linemen. And then as far as running backs can be, who do you see for one year? But that might not be bad.
I agree to a certain extent, but for me, it's more of it's as to your point to start it's a supply demand thing. There is a greater supply of elite running backs that you're able to tap into, and not a great supply of elite tackles and guards that you can pull from. And if we're already missing that battle, and not even in the mix for the elite ones that are legitimate game changers on the offensive line, because they're going to the likes of, LSU and, Miami and Clemson and Georgia and Alabama and Michigan, then we're going to have to take more gambles at that spot. And because of that, by default, does that mean that we should miss out on an elite game-changing running back for the sake of trying to chase after one of those? I personally don't think so. I think you rationally have to decide what battles can be won and which can't. And I think that's probably the calls that are being made. And on top of that, I think if we had, like Florida State's $25 million NIL war chest, that might be a different story. But we do not. So we have to decide on where we want to spend it properly with an eye on the supply and demand.
I mean, I think that you could also point to the Merriweather, Keon Graves argument that you made earlier and say that those two guys, not having them has been as big of a loss as the O-line playing.
Yeah. Maybe that takes the pressure off the O-line. Mm-hmm. Maybe that opens up some of the underneath. Maybe that
I just think the inefficiency is clearly at the running back position, and it just sucks to say that. Like, I'm glad Jaden is, like, we built him up to be a Heisman candidate. He deserved it. Like, I don't mean to pull anything away from him. I just think it's dumb because you have these obvious examples of how things are being done and how values are being attributed at the highest level, and we could just apply them at the collegiate level relatively similarly, and I think it would actually work. I don't think that works across the board, but I think that one to me is right. It doesn't take a genius to understand that. Hey, again, the U.S. like who was Oregon's running back last year? Like what
Bucky
team was he
Irving.
on?
He's on the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Yeah, he's on the Bucks. Dude, I didn't even know who he was. I was like, oh damn, he was tight at Oregon. Who isn't tight at Oregon from a running back position? My goodness, like literally every year they have another running back. It goes all the way back to the Michael James era, and even before that, it's just like who isn't good in that program, and do they command the number one spot on your NIL roster? I don't know.
Yeah. Oregon's also recruiting differently than we are.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, way different level. Next one from CT. Since Wilcox signed his $28 million contract extension, Cal is 7-19 versus Power 5 schools. In the past 4 years, Cal football is 5-21 in one-score games. Fire that man. That's an opinion for sure, and it's an opinion of a lot of folks. Shavit Karen.
You're gonna go to politics now, Rob? That was great. You should go to the debates. That was wonderful.
I'm all right.
That's an opinion of many folks.
It is.
You said, I believe the quote was, that's an opinion, and that's an opinion many folks have. That is great. I could use that for anything.
Yeah.
How would you solve the immigration crisis? Well, the fact that it's a crisis is an opinion, and it's an opinion that many people have.
I'm playing both sides so I come out on top. Shavit says, what gives you hope for next year's team? For me, it is Mendoza as a redshirt junior.
What do you think?
I think I have a similar I'm in the similar vein. Not that Mendoza is going to be a redshirt junior, but because a lot of the guys that are getting minutes and snaps right now, particularly on the offensive side, are all young. Are all like non-seniors. So that's the kind of hope, is that you kind of take a couple more steps forward from all the spots.
I still have the hope. I still have the hope. That's the problem. The hope is part of the problem here. We just keep convincing ourselves of the sort of the season that's right around the corner. And I really thought that this season was going to be the point where we elevated up to 8 wins. And I would love to buy into a world in which we say next season is the one. It certainly seems like we're going to have a really easy schedule. There's no way that we're not going to be having the same, like any conversation around us reaching that ceiling has to be tempered with the fact that we've never been able to take that leap for whatever reason. And Wilcox has proven his ability to do that as defensive coordinator and as a player. I don't understand why he's struggling so much to get the team to take that leap. And I don't know if, again, is it assistant coaches, but it has to fall somewhere in the coaching realm. And I don't know what it is. And it's got to be frustrating as hell because he's already been there and he has done it. And there's nothing to me as frustrating as having walked the path, but like not being able to bring people along with you.
Great answer. All right, we got Sing the Tune Without the Words. If the Doomers are right, I don't think they are, about the impending demise of Cal football, I want to know I spent as many fall Saturdays as I could supporting our team. See you all in CMS this Saturday.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
If this is the end,
I don't think
it is. You don't need to do,
people but I do think that the big merge is probably, you said 2030.
Yeah.
I think it's probably 2026. I think it's close. Is my guess. Is that there'll be a big realignment. I just think Cal's going to fall within that. Look, y'all have done great work with this Calgorithm stuff that I know nothing about. Like, y'all have done great things. So just keep doing it. Like, keep us in the national conversation, keep us relevant. And the play on the field this year, like getting game day, like those things are, like game day will sustain this program for this season, even if we end up losing every game for the end of the year. We still had game day and we still were a national piece of the national conversation. Everybody saw a full stadium. Everybody saw, like, you know, there's just a lot there where people say this is a brand that I just don't think people knew that. And there's a reason why we were kind of cast aside in the big realignment. But I think once you see that, and that's what I believe Notre Dame saw, is that Notre Dame knew that Stanford travels really well. because they saw him show up to Notre Dame, and then they saw Cal show up to Notre Dame, and that's why I think I truly think, like, who knows, but like in my deep down gut, I believe that our presence at Notre Dame at that away game was a reason why they advocated for us to be in the ACC.
Great answer.
Could be wrong.
Great answer.
Could be wrong. Maybe it was bus 2.
Maybe it was bus 2. Maybe they found out about bus 2. All right, we got a few more. Let's roll through this. Tyler sends us a bunch of thoughts, but my main questions: how do we avoid the perception of a lame duck season for next year? And what can the algorithm do for the program to help it get to the best place it can be right now? Understanding that many of us are sad, tired, frustrated, and we can't hide that.
I can't speak on anything algorithm related.
But you can speak to that. You can speak to what can the algorithm do for the program?
Yeah, I mean, I just touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, so lame duck stuff. Look, the odds of that happening.
I think the only way it's a lame duck season is if we realize that we're not going to open up the NIL for Wilcox to use this off season. That's the only way it like cements itself as a lame duck season, because otherwise you're going to give him as many tools as possible to succeed. There's no reason you're going to waste away a single year just so you can lower the buyout to get him out next year, because that's even more detrimental long term with ticket sales and interest in the team.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, every comment that kills me on Right for California are the ones of like, I'm a 30-year season ticket holder. I'm not going to renew until we have a change in coach. Look, like, it's probably not going to happen. And like, please don't not renew your season tickets. It's just like not what the program needs right now. I love the fact that I have season tickets. It's my favorite thing. Canceled any wine club that I've had, try to get rid of all my subscriptions, but I will not get rid of my season tickets. It's so much fun, even if we lose. And it's a pain that is like no other, but it's also just like such a special place to get to bring my family to and go back and visit. It's just bigger than the outcome on the field. And I try to remind myself that when I'm, cursing and just so frustrated, and I'm right along with y'all, but please don't cancel those season tickets. It's just it's not what it's all about. A professional sports team, I get it, but college is just a little bit different. It's a little bit more personal in that way.
I think for the second question about algorithm, I'll do the answering. I think it's maintain engagement. I think if we can show, even in a social media presence, of like, just because we lose, like, we're not just like, fair weather fans, and that we still showcase our presence as much as we did the week of beating Auburn or the week of getting game day. Like, I think that'll go a long way. And at least this season, if people can look back at the 2024 season and go, remember like that social phenomenon of algorithm, and that it wasn't just like a one little spark thing, but it's like something that people remember, and then something people are excited about from a non-Cal fan perspective about next season as well. That's what we need. We can't fade into the black. And that's probably the role that algorithm has to play here, is to stay engaged with every single other fan base and that we play against, to maintain that, we weren't just here only for the good vibes, but we'll be here throughout all of it. Next one from Kevin.
I love that.
Do we have a sense of what NIL scene is like for top O-line talent, both in terms of high school recruiting and transfer talent? The only one I can think of is Caden Proctor, right? Was at Alabama, transfers to Iowa, and then comes back to Alabama. And that was an easy 6 figures. So, like, yeah. Someone said, like, I think quarterbacks demand, like, in the millions. So if quarterbacks demand in the millions, then I think an O-lineman probably sits somewhere in, like, the 500K to 800K range. That's just a ballpark of what I'm thinking about. If let's say a top tier quarterback costs like 2-3 mil. Yeah, sounds about right. And that's wild.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And that's wild if you think of how much Cal raised in NIL over game day weekend, which is about 2.5 million. Like, that puts it into perspective of the financial, like, tier that we're trying to play up against. crazy. Oski report. Endry's got to be NFL bound at this point, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
I think
but
so.
I think so.
Yeah, same here. Last one from Doc Seuss. I'm just not sure I'm buying the there's not enough talented O-line players to go around argument for why our offensive output is so consistently anemic. Lots of schools manage to score points with non-SEC O-line talent. Why can't we, regardless of who our opponent is? That's actually a simple answer in my opinion. It's the scheme we run. The scheme we run needs average to above average offensive line play from an opponent relative standpoint. Our offensive line needs to be either on par with them or above them in order for our offense to work. I think there's a lot of schools that realize they can't get offensive linemen to that degree and will run schemes that do that, a la air raids, right? Space it out. Don't bunch. And that's how they score points. Our play call, our thing isn't that. Like our scheme isn't that, which is why it leads to this.
Yep. I was going to say same thing.
Yeah. If we change our scheme, we probably don't need the offensive talent that we really need to execute that scheme.
I don't want to change our scheme.
I don't want to change our scheme either.
I think it can work. Like Michigan's doing it.
Well, I mean, financial tier again.
Yeah.
We just don't compete like from a recruiting standpoint with them as of yet. So that's why the NIL is that important. Anything else?
No, I mean keep the questions coming. As Rob said, engagement is what's going to carry us through here, and hopefully we get right against Oregon State. And I do think that the talent disparity here is really going to be something that should play into our favor. Finally, in a different way than just in a very different way than I think even NC State. Like this is now, it's just a different version of Oregon State that we're going to be getting. So we have to take advantage.
As we close, Andy, we got one more tweet. So we're going to have to do this because it snuck in as we're about to close. Okay. Callie Scotty says, your episodes help us Cal fans keep the faith. Thanks for the hard work, guys. On that note, before I ask this question, for you, Andy, this is just for you. I got a text message from my buddy David, who gave us the tickets to give away a couple of weeks ago. He texted me today at 2:30 p.m. Hey, I keep forgetting to ask, but can you tell Andy that I enjoy listening to him and you too, of course, he's talking to me, on the Bearcast. I appreciate his measured takes. He's not on Twitter, so I don't know how to express my appreciation directly.
So kind.
Yeah.
I love that.
So that's from David. So Callie Scotty, your episodes help us Cal fans keep the faith. Thanks for the hard work, guys. First, Josiah Martin looks solid. Thoughts on the true freshman?
Wish he was bigger.
He has the speed, though. You can definitely tell he has the speed. But yeah, it's going to be a little.
He does, but he's so tiny. Like,
He's tiny.
I just remember there was one play where one of the defenders just pushed him entirely off of the route, and it was just like, you're done.
Yeah. He just gets shoved off of routes sometimes. He needs to definitely hit the weight room, but you can tell the speed's there. You can tell the ability's there. It's just a matter of getting his body up to speed with collegiate athletics.
Yep.
Number 2, how can Mendoza improve his pocket presence? Step up, improve scrambling ability. Wow, how crazy. We just talked about that.
Yeah, I thought we had a really good discussion on it. So normally I do want to answer it, but I would say worth going back to the first podcast in this release and listening to that.
Mm-hmm. And the last one, who do you project gets drafted to the NFL in 2025?
Excellent. I have many. So obviously Noah Williams, I think is. Yeah. So I think Teddy's done with us, right?
Yeah.
That makes me so sad. I think Teddy has a good shot as a late round pick.
I think at the very least he's a UDFA.
Well, Marcus Harris. What year is he?
Yeah.
So I think Craig Woodson as well.
Yep.
So I think this is like one of the, and it's all defense.
Yeah, Ricky Correa's gone too, and he might get a look. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Ott is the big one too.
Oh yeah, but I actually think Jaden is not going to go to the league. My main predictor right now for him would be transfer and have one more year in college, and then go.
Might be. I mean, when we asked him before the season started, he was like, they asked him if this is going to be his last year here, he said yeah, and that was like the underlying premise was like just NFL. So,
I mean, if his stock is high, go for it. But
it's a heavy running back draft.
Yeah, I sort of see him. Look, he did nothing wrong. He stayed 3 years. Like, go out. You got your degree, hopefully. Grad transfer into Ohio State. Go in the first round or go in the second round. I mean, again, no one should be drafting running back in this first round, but go in the second or third round. I would not be a person holding him back for doing that. I think he's done enough, and the season just hasn't been what there's it is what it is. Just injuries are a part of the game, and it's kind of just unlucky.
My hope here is that he goes league and gets drafted by my Chargers, and not just because like I'm a Chargers fan, but like him running behind the like run heavy scheme that Jim Harbaugh likes to run.
Yeah,
with like Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater as his tackles, I think would be very, very fun. Very, very fun. And we need a running back. So like it's all there. Thank God he didn't draft Blake Corum this year. I was so afraid of that. So afraid. And then we look, we got a heartbreak loss today too. I don't know if you checked the score, but we lost on a game-winning field goal by Arizona. So love it. I love my life. I love it.
Sports, man.
Sports. All of my your pro football team and your college football team.
Well,
my pro football team and my college football team, all not having. We're not having a fun time.
Nope. All
right. Well, that wraps it up for us here on the Golden Bearcast. Once again, this is the Golden Tweets. You can get at us at a Golden Bearcast on Twitter, or you can tweet at us, or you can email us goldenbearcast@gmail.com. And if I'm probably dropping this on a Friday, so if you're listening to this, today is also the last day you can get the Right for California Warriors World merch. So if you haven't ordered that, go take a look, order it. Marshawn Oski on a golf cart, roll on you Bears. It's a sick design, multiple colors, multiple hoodies, long sleeve shirts, crew necks, short sleeve shirts. So
wait, that's the last day?
Yeah, it's a pre-order.
So pre-orders is it?
It might come back, it might not come back, you never know. But if you want to guarantee yourself a drop, you got to get it by Friday.
Oh, damn you.
Yeah.
So. I thought I had more time.
Nah, sorry. Well, yeah, because like how they do it is they get the orders and then they start manufacturing. So we need.
This is what it's like in the modern world, is it?
Yeah, I mean it's smart, right? This is a total side conversation, but it is smart. You don't have any inventory left behind. You're just making whatever you sold. So I think that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is smart. I like that.
Yeah. All right. That's it for the Golden Bearcast. We'll see y'all later. And as always, go Bears.
Go Bears.